Good afternoon, and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to set up and do a wheel for our OnShape. The wheel is the tire is one of the components. I think many of you are probably waiting towards the end to work on this particular one, so I thought I'd show you what it looks like and how I went about building it. So here's the one I built. Now the good news, it doesn't really matter which one of the different tires that you decide to do, whether it's the green tire or the blue tire or the orange tire in my case. The tire itself is pretty much the same size for any one of the things. I added the little cutouts right here as part of the tread, but the truth is you don't have to have that on there. So I'm going to slide that down there like that. So if I went back and just essentially remove that last revolve, if yours look like that, you're looking pretty good. That's fine. I'll get rid of that sketch. I think that's a good looking tire. You can add tread, that's plenty, that's extra. So don't worry about that unless you have time and you feel like you have time to do something like that. So how do we begin? Well, let's go back to our OnShape. And then we're in our drive. We're going to create a document, and we're going to call it tire, all caps, of course, dash. There we go. Now we're ready to start. Now, there's a few things you could learn as you go through this, even if you didn't have to build a tire. One was extruding in two different directions. That's one of the big things. And circle pattern. Circle pattern is a great tool for cutting out and duplicating a pattern. So a radial pattern, like we talked about with our design principles, right? So today, let's put a sketch, and I'm going to put a sketch on my front plane. Now, some people would say that probably the best way to go about building this would be do a revolve. I don't think it needs a revolve because it's just a simple circle. So let's just start out by doing some circles. I need 1 and 2 circles to give us the thickness of the tire tread. According to my dimensions on my sketch, there's my sketch right there. I did the sketch, the front view here, right? And then up above it is a top view. But the top view, see all the hidden lines? Because everything's hidden. I did a section view over here, basically as if I cut this part right off, this section right out of here, and I can show you what it looks like right there. And I can dimension all those little pieces right there too. So we're going to talk about section views very soon. But for now, I'll just go ahead and build one. We can always add to our sketches later. All right, here we go. Let's see. I had a diameter of 0.95. I love how OnShape makes them both smaller proportionally. Some of the other programs do not do that. And then I have a diameter of 0.80. That looks pretty thick, actually. So sometimes I go back and just take my dial caliper because it's right here, convenient. And I want to see what the thickness of my tire is. So I got it set up like so. And I read it's going to be 0.05, maybe 0.06. So realize I can actually add a dimension like this. Dimension from this one to that one. And that'll give me my thickness, right? Dimension from one circle to the other circle. And I can get it basically the thickness of it. I said it was 0.06. Actually, I think that looks better. So I'm going to make a note of that. That one's a little bit off. 0.06 thickness. You're going to be constantly making changes back and forth as you start to draw them in. You're going to go, well, that looks a little thick. Maybe it looks better if it's this way. You're never going to get it perfect, but I think you're going to be very surprised on how close you're going to be able to get it. Now, this is the first trick. I want my plane to be in the middle, and I put it on the front plane. So that means I'm going to have to do a second end position. I'm extruding it out both ways so that my plane stands in the middle. And I have written down that I have 0.32, so I'm going to do 0.16 this direction, and 0.16 in that direction. See, you can do a separate extrusion. Mid-plane extrusion is basically what it is. They call it a second end draft or a second draft position. So it just gives you the advantage of keeping that plane right dead center in the middle. So I've got the tire formed. That's pretty straightforward. What you don't realize is there's actually or maybe you do, if I turn it inside out, there's another ring way down in the bottom there, and I don't know if you can see that very well, but there's another ring in the center, and it's not very big. So I'm going to apply another sketch. This time I'm just going to click on the front view, and it just puts it right back where I had my original sketch. So I didn't pick on the front, I didn't pick on the back plane, I put it right on the front view, so I know it's going to go right back in the center. Use the same centers, make it big. I like to do a second one that's the same size as the inside one. I could go back and just double check that to make sure that it is. So that when I extrude it, it extrudes it out, and it's actually going to connect. So let's go back and do this edge. Boom. Let's see what that is going to be. I have it down as 0.78. Looks all right. It seems like it could be a little big. 0.80. I'm curious what that would look like. I think 0.80 actually is a little closer. So I'm going to switch my dimensions around a little bit. 0.80 on that one. So I'll finish my sketch, and I'm going to extrude. I'm going to pick my profile. Boom. I'm going to do a second end position. Now the thickness of this thing is tiny. It doesn't go out very wide at all. Let's see. I'm looking at it like 0.1. So I'm going to 0.05 in one direction and 0.05 in the separate direction. Ooh, that still looks way too wide. That's funny because I thought I had it written down as 0.1. No, what am I thinking? Add another 0 to that. Well, that's true then. I'm going to have to go back and measure it. That does happen. I have my dimensions down here, but they don't seem to be too accurate. 0.05 total, I should say. 0.05, so 0.025 and 0.025. That seems to be better. Even that seems to be thick. I'm just looking at the actual, it looks really quite thin on that. That's the measurement I got, but I'm going to go smaller though. Go back to extrude, edit. I'm just going to go 0.02 and 0.02. I think that's going to do it. All right, that's good for now. So now we're getting ready to put these little tabs. I've turned it inside out. You can see the little tabs that go all the way around. There's 12 of them, and they're going on technically the inside of the tire, right? So how would I go about doing that? Same way. Go to Sketch. I'm going to pick on the front view, or the front plane, I should say. And it's going to put it right back on the front plane where we were. And this is interesting. When I set this up, I wanted to give us just one, and then I'm going to circle pattern around. So I'm going to start by simply drawing a line straight out at the 0 degrees. I don't really care how long it is, doesn't really matter. But it gives me a reference mark as to where it's going to be located. Now I'm going to draw a rectangle, and I'm going to make sure this rectangle is blended into the actual tire. So when I go to extrude it, it's actually going to be a part of the tire. If I didn't do that, you'd end up actually having a separate part separated from the existing tire. You don't want that. So now we're going to give it some overall dimensions. As I recall, I had this dimension down to, I think it was the same 0.02. Oh, see what happened there? So I'm going to hit undo because I want to leave it there. I want to leave it right here. So what can I do to leave it there? I could put a dimension on here right now. From the center to this edge. I don't have that dimension in here, but I can figure it out. If I know that it's 0.8 or 0.4 from here to the inside circle, then this one should be like, yeah, that's pretty darn close. I think I have written down 0.38. Just a little bump right there, 0.38. Let me just make a note of that measurement. 0.38. I may change it. So now when I change this dimension, notice it just gets smaller and it's fine. And it's not going to jump around all over the place on you. I'm going to go a little bigger on that. I measured it and I came up with 0.08. Oop. But I think I made it 0.08 last time and I didn't like the way it looked. I thought it looked too big. Even now it seems a little big. I'm going to go back and take a look at my drawing. I'll look at the actual part. I'm going to recess this in a little bit more. See, 0.4 is going to bring you right up there. You don't want that. 0.39. Just a bit over that edge, and I think that will work. So from there, we're going to finish our sketch. And once again, this is what's handy about this, is when I go to extrude, I'm going to say second direction, and we're going to come out. It should be 0.5 in, so I'm looking at it. So it's 3 point, so probably 1.6. So I'm going to come in and pick my profile. Boom. See how it comes out both directions, just the way I wanted it. 0.16. Oh, that's too far. Oh, I know why. That's 0.15. It's coming in just short of the edge. I'm still thinking that could be a little bit more. Do you see how much is trial and error on this? You can see that it's just, sometimes you just have to tweak it a bit. And that's why when you're doing your sketches ahead of time, not all the dimensions you put on your sketches are going to hold. You may end up making some slight modifications to them as you go along, which is perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal. Let me just take a measurement again. I just want to confirm that the length of those extrusions are going to be close. So I'm going to rotate my tire inside out and see if I can't just get a halfway decent measurement. I have it all written down, but sometimes I don't trust my own measurements here. I have looks like 0.25. So that would be 1/8 of an inch in each direction. So I was a little bit off in that direction. In that direction. So it's going to be 1/4 inch all the way across, or 0.125 in both directions. So it ends up being even. Let's take a look at that from the front. It doesn't look too bad. Now, to make it blend in a little bit, I was playing around with this earlier. When they form these things, they never end up being a perfect corner. So a lot of times you'll end up having a fillet of some sort where it blends in from one to another. And these fillets are pretty small. 0.0, maybe 0.06. 0.06, 0.006. No, it could be 0.06. Actually, see that? How small it is? Boom. I like to do this edge too, just to give it like it's blending in nice and even. Oop. it over. I'm going to look at this side right there. I'm going to look at that side, this corner, and then finally looking at the other edge, that one, and this one, and that one too, where it blends in there. See how it goes right around that corner. So I'm adding all these fillets. Oh, I missed that corner. I'm going to just check. So it kind of blends in, molds in a little better. You know what? That could be a little much. Fillet. Notice I just double click on it. I'm going to do something a little smaller. 0.005. And then I'm going to add one more thing to it. You noticed I missed this corner right there. I think that looks better. All right. Now, something new. We need 12 of them. 12 of these little dashes. How are we going to do that? We're going to do what they call a circular pattern. This is a rectangular pattern or a linear pattern. And here we have a circular pattern. So the first thing you got to do is pick the entities that you want to copy. And I'll pick not only the extrusion. Just like when we did mirror, you got to go back and say feature pattern. I'm going to pick that extrusion, and I'm going to pick all those fillets. And they show up right here. Pick inside the blue box, and then pick the plane that you want to, or the circular side you want to go by. Anything that's circular, like I could just pick that, and it should go right around. And you'll see what's happening. I have 4 of them, and I need 12. And boom, all 12 go in. That's called a circular pattern. Now, you could do that in sketch mode. It actually allows you to do it in sketch mode. But I think you'll agree, I think it's much easier to do when it's in a solids mode, when you're doing your modeling. I'm looking back at that, and those seem, because of the fillets and everything, they seem kind of skinny. So guess what? I'm just going to go back. I'm going to edit my sketch, which is going to be editing the original sketch. And I'm going to boost those up a little bit. The good thing about most of these 3D modeling software, they're pretty adaptive. So if I did all that, it's going to think a lot, and then it's going to give me the same result. It's just a little bit wider. And the other thing I don't like is this. This definitely seems too wide. So I think I'm going to go back here and change that to 0.01 and 0.01. Because it's pretty thin, or supposed to be pretty thin. And there we go. I think that's looking better. So to finish off your tire, and it's looking pretty good, I want to make sure I rename this tire. Right? That's what's going to show up in your bill of materials. I'm going to change the appearance to match the appearance of whatever you're doing. If it's blue car or whatever, I'm just going to hit orange. Check. And then the last thing I usually do, just to make it look nice, would be to round over the edges a little bit. Just a small little round over, 0.02. I do this edge. They're all kind of rounded over a little bit. That actually may be a little bit too aggressive. 0.01. I like that, but it's just enough to make it look like the edges are kind of rounded over. And there we go. There we go. Boom. Excuse me. And that is all that is required for the tire. Something looks like that. All right. If you have any problems, let me know. Good luck.